So here we are, the third horror movie released in as many months, and I'm not counting The Purge as a horror movie. We had The Conjuring 2 in June, we had Lights Out, which comes out in a couple of days here in July, and I got to see Don't Breathe, which will be released in August, which is about a little more than a month from now. And I got a chance to catch this early, so I was privileged to do that. Again, I'm a huge horror movie fan. I like to catch as many as I can and give you guys the reviews. So does this movie make it 3 for 3, or does Hollywood give us another bust? Let's find out. And with that, I welcome you to another episode of The Romenter, where my goal, as always, is to enhance your movie watching experience. So now, Don't Breathe is basically starring Stephen Lang, who we saw in Avatar, and we also have Jane Levy, who was in The Evil Dead, who was brought over by Fede Alvarez, who directed both those movies, of course, produced by Sam Raimi, who was in charge of the original Evil Dead trilogy. So this movie has a basic premise. We have three young people, two guys and a girl, who go around and steal and go into people's houses. They break in and steal stuff and set it to make money. The goal is trying to move to California. Now the problem is that they decide to go into a blind man's house, and if Daredevil has taught us anything, is you can't always fuck with the blind guy. Now off the bat, let me say, as always, that a horror movie just needs to be scary in order to be good. Unfortunately, this is not a horror movie. I don't want you guys to go under the wrong impression if you're going to decide to go watch this film. This is more of a suspense, a thriller, more than a horror. It doesn't have the atmosphere, it doesn't really build that kind of tension and get so many scares that most typical horror movies do. This is not that movie. This movie is essentially kind of cat and mouse game, as obviously, like I said, we're trying to invade the poor guy's house. He finds out what's going on. This guy happens to be a war veteran, so he can take care of himself, and he ends up going after those who are trying to steal from him. Now, the big problem with this movie is that I just didn't give a shit about any of the characters here. Here we have, Jane Levy's character and her two male companions, who essentially are thieves, and we're supposed to care about these people for some reason. They actually go into a blind guy's house whose daughter was killed in a car accident. He got a big settlement, and they want to take it from him. That's not exactly the people you really are rooting for. And so you actually end up rooting for the blind guy who, hell man, this is his house and he's defending his home. I do the same thing. Now the problem is, about halfway through the movie, as you try to get vested in the old guy and hopefully he succeeds in catching all the three folks, is that they gave us something which kind of makes him an asshole himself, and which now deflates any kind of investment you had with the blind guy, because now you don't know who to root for. And essentially you're going for him, you wanted to capture him, now you're kind of rooting against him, but you can't really root for any other characters as well. And it pretty much took me out of the movie. Now, this movie wasn't a complete failure. It had some interesting moments of suspense in there. There's a really cool scene where I won't spoil it, but the trailers kind of reveal it, with the scene where they're like, I think, in the cellar, and he turns off the light to kind of even the playing field. That came off really well. It has a couple of interesting, cool scenes, but for the most part, a lot of times, it's just a lot of dumb stuff happens in this movie. It just takes me out. I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but some things that just don't make sense. Why are these people in this situation to begin with? One quick example that has cell phones, and today's society, we can Snapchat, text, tweet, make a call. Nothing is done. They all got cell phones, and no one wants to use it to get out of the house, to call for some help with police or anybody. It doesn't make any sense. Now that's a real shame, because there are some good elements here. There could have been an interesting kind of fun movie, and some folks may have fun with this flick, and good for you guys. I was just taken out from the beginning, even from the beginning scene, which kind of spoils what happens in the end. That to me didn't make any sense. It kind of ruins some of the suspense it could have built up at the end of the movie, and it just pulled the rug right off under you, because it gave you a crucial scene to start the movie, which is something that I'm not a big fan of. Now, essentially, am I going to recommend this movie? Not really. This is one I catch it at home, Netflix, VOD. Get a couple of your friends, have a few beers, and you'll probably get some enjoyment out of it. There are some good things in there, good moments of suspense, but ultimately, I can't really recommend you guys go to the theater and spend your hard-earned money on this. This is one I avoid. This is not to the level of The Conjuring 2. It's definitely not to the level of Lights Out, which I thought was a really good horror movie. That's one if you want to see horror, that's one I recommend you go watch. By the time you see this review, again, this is a month away, so the Lights Out will be out for a few weeks before that. Catch that. Don't waste your time with this as much, unfortunately. It's a little bit of a mess, which is kind of a shame, because it has some good things in there at the end of the day, but it just fell apart. It was just too dumb. The characters were just completely unlikable. And again, at the end of the day, I wouldn't recommend you waste your time with it. So at the end of the day, you're gonna catch it. Let me know what you guys thought. As always, comment below. And of course, subscribe and continue to feed my need to go to the movies and talk about it afterwards. See you guys next time.